Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Mile High Sports. I'm Shawn. Drotar. Santa Club is off today. We are at the end zone at the Denver Broncos Training Camp facility, Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. I know that because there's a big sign with it. Otherwise, I would have just said Dove Valley because we all know where it is. But joining me today is Nate Lundy, the president of Mile High Sports, here for Camp 15 for you, and the lead writer for the Denver Broncos on Mile High Sports, Cody Roark. Cody, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Obviously, Broncos camp, the haze is gone a little bit, so that's nice.
Do you mean the weather or just like the haze over the fan base?
Ooh, that's a good point.
I mean, let's cut right to the chase here. Let's get right to it here this morning as we go with this camp, because there's a good, you can't see it, and we're not allowed to show it on the camera, by the way, because there's weird rules about what we can and can't show, but there's a good amount of fans. Cody, there's a good amount of fans on the berm.
All of the tickets, of course, they're free, but all of the tickets were used.
Yes.
So
it still doesn't feel like
free, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, do you call it a sell? I feel like when Peyton Manning was here, obviously it was different. It's always going to be different when you have somebody like PFM here. But your initial reaction, Cody, here on the official day one, screw the acclimation stuff that he was talking about. Let's talk about day one. Tell me what you have seen so far in the first 60 minutes of practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more energy here. I think the players get a little more energized when the fans are here. I mean, when we are able to attend the acclimation without fans, I mean, it's a little more laid back, nonchalant, but I feel like you have young guys, you have vets who have stuff to prove, and, you get energized a little bit. I remember as a player just being on the field, and anytime we had a large crowd, I always wanted to be better. I always wanted to come out and play better, practice better, whatever it may be. And I think that's the vibe here. You get it. Obviously, a multitude of different position battles that are ongoing right now across the board. I feel like there's more open competition now with this team than there has been maybe in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think it's something we should definitely keep an eye on, but the energy is definitely bigger.
And that's going to happen after 7 consecutive losing seasons. So there is a weird sort of dichotomy here. Fans are excited. They always are during Broncos season, but there is now sort of an attitude of show me, and that starts with Bo Nix. So let's go there first and foremost. And if you've listened to this show regularly, you understand that I've been telling you constantly, stop with the quarterback competition. There is no quarterback competition. The Denver Broncos starter is Bo Nix, unless he is either unhealthy or has been completely the wrong guy. And when you picked a guy as high as he did, that's a mistake. So in other words, let's put up the competition. How has Bo Nix looked on his way to claiming QB1 in the early going, whether it's OTAs, the acclimation periods, or day one of practice?
Well, I'd say Bo's done a really good job of picking up the offense. We haven't seen them really open things up too much. Like they're going back to install. It's one thing Sean Payton told us earlier this week. They're going back to the install they did first off when they came in for OTAs, the offseason period. And they're going to revisit that from time to time. But, I mean, when you talk about him getting the ball, getting the snap, being able to process what coverage the defense is, delivering the throw on time, I think that's probably the biggest thing we've seen with Bo. And Jarrett Stidham's done the same exact thing. Zach Wilson hasn't done the same thing in that regard. But I'd say between these two guys, and specifically with Bo, there is no hesitation from him. There is no double clutching. There is no going to separate the ball and then bringing it back because your read's not there. He has confidence in his delivery. And I think he's got confidence in his teammates that are running the right stuff. That's one thing I noticed about Bo, but I'm not surprised. Bo's got 61 college career starts. He's experienced. He's been in an offense very similar to what Shawn wants to run. So I think there's a level of comfort for him going in, even though he's learning some new terminology. But I think one thing we do want to see, we want to see them open up the playbook a little bit more, not necessarily the short field passes, but I want to see them consistently downfield. Not say we did see one pass from Bo yesterday in practice. It wasn't sharp for the QBs throwing downfield. He had Troy Franklin wide open, overshot him by a yard or two. He had a step on Pat Surtain in that regard there. But there are things about Bo's game I think you're going to see more comfort coming his way.
When you try to make the transition between what he was doing in Eugene for the University of Oregon and coming here, you already talked about kind of the similarities within the offense. But is there one thing in particular, Cody, that is a major adjustment for Nix compared to what he had at the University of Oregon? Is there anything major outside of just the speed of the game, which you're not going to know until you're actually, on the field and you're playing against some of these NFL talents? But is there something particular that you know from watching him, watching his film, watching the games when he was at Oregon, compared to what you believe Sean Payton's going to do? Is there one thing that he is going to have to work on a transition on?
That's a great question. So far, I mean, I see him operating everything kind of similar way he did in Eugene. I think the only difference from an elemental standpoint, I mean, Nate, you've been to Oregon, you've been on the coast, you've been in Eugene. It's Pacific.
that town.
There's no.
Don't ask Nate about Oregon.
Well, you're a Corvallis guy. I mean, I wouldn't expect
you know this.
anything
You know this. It pained me when they drafted him, and then the best part was, real quick before you get back to it. My favorite part was I had family and friends that were like, "Oh God, you're going to lose your bleep, aren't you?" And I said, "No." I said, the moment they leave campus, I'm okay with it, right? I'm a Justin Herbert guy. Like I like watching Justin play. It was while you're in Eugene, I want to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Once you leave, it's okay.
No, I love Eugene though, but like the altitude, like his ball, like a lot of people said, well, he doesn't have the arm strength. I haven't seen an issue with his arm strength whatsoever. Looking at Oregon, what they had him do with Will Stein, like it's a true West Coast offense. It's a 3-level throwing system. You're going to get the flats. You're going to get the short to intermediate. You're going to get the deep ball there, but it's methodical in how they attack it. And I think that translates well to what we're talking about here with Sean Payton. You're going to see the quick passing game, but then you're going to open it up to, I think, the deep stuff. You're going to take the shots. So I think it's maybe an adjustment for him on learning how do I tone my touch at altitude, at air, because the ball, I mean, arm talent has not been an issue for him whatsoever.
And let me follow up real quick on that that you just brought up, Cody. I am of the I guess I'm of the group. I think we talk way too much about arm strength for NFL quarterbacks.
Yes.
I think we do it way, way, way too much.
Yeah.
Is it something that is of value? Yes. But if you're a fan, you're watching us right now, or you're thinking about, I don't care. Pick a quarterback. I don't care if you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, you want to talk about Mahomes, you want to talk about Breeze, I don't care. Pick a quarterback and tell me how many times in a game that is actually some sort of major factor. Right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, I want somebody that knows how to do the reads. I want somebody that knows how to be able to adjust to when they see something change right before the snap. That's what I don't give a damn whether you can throw it 30 yards in the air or 75 yards in the air, because the number of times that being able to be that far downfield is a true factor. No. Give me a break.
No, yeah. I mean, in Denver too, like Russ could throw the deep ball last year, but where did he struggle? He struggled with the short to intermediate. He struggled with the middle of the field stuff. You're not going to get that with Bo. Like Bo, I mean, Bo's sizable. Like if you have a chance to be out here in the morning as they get ready to run out the tunnel, you watch Bo come out. He's tall. It's a drastic difference night and day in terms of height between Russell Wilson, Bo Nix, but also Bo. That's his game. Bo has worked on all of those things to become a quarterback, to become a first-round pick. Like that's something that's got him here. And of course, 61 career starts. There's been some time for him to evolve as a freshman to where he was at last year in Eugene, but the best part of where he's at, I think, is in a good system. I think he's got good players around him right here, young players. Look, you have 4 proven wide receivers, in my opinion, on this. No, 3 proven on this roster. That's Cortland, that's Tim, that's Josh Reynolds. Marvin Mims going to be more prominent. He's talented, but we don't know what he is exactly yet at that position. And then you have his college teammate Troy Franklin, who's got a lot of chemistry with. That's going to help him. And then you have size at the tight end position. Now, the biggest thing is, can the personnel pieces stay healthy? Can key guys on the offensive line stay healthy? They did a great job of that last year, but I think you are going to see if Denver is just maybe even in 2 games better with their quarterback play and efficiency, they will win 10 games this year, in my opinion. I don't see them being worse than what they were last year. So for me, I think a lot is riding on it. Is Bo going to maybe start right away? Maybe not. I mean, but then if Stidham gets the start, there's so much pressure on him on a weekly basis, because the moment the offense sputters out or goes 3 and out, 2 times in a row, the fan base is going to get a little uneasy, right? And I don't know if Shawn wants that. So I think even if it's close, it goes to Bo.
Absolutely, because what you're talking about is right. Zach Wilson is not in the equation. He is a lawn dart. The Broncos
he's
threw
getting
on
the first looks today, but
that doesn't mean very much, obviously. And
that'll change.
You're really talking about Stidham, who's a free agent after this season, and you're exactly right. Again, the reason there's not a competition here, and it is going to be Bo Nix's job, is not that he was the top pick, not that the Broncos for months indicated he was going to be the top pick. The smokescreen from McCarthy was always exactly that, as we told you right here on this program. But the point you made is important, because you're going to hear people around town talk about the quarterback competition, and that's one of the reasons that they're not. You broke it down really well, because if Jarrett Stidham were to somehow start week 1 for whatever reason, right? It's all about when does Nix start. And so Stidham is really doomed from the get-go the second that he starts a game, because the second he slips up, the fan base, after 7 losing seasons, is immediately going to clamor for a change.
Yeah.
So you might as well take the guy that you've invested in, and you might as well just go ahead and throw him in and see if he can sink or swim. This idea that came from Aaron Rodgers, quite frankly, that you have a top quarterback, that then you sit behind another guy, and that somehow makes you better by osmosis, because Brett Favre was not teaching Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't
Denver
happen.
doesn't have Aaron Rodgers. Denver doesn't have Alex Smith on the roster right now.
Right. And you look at the quarterbacks that have succeeded in the league, it's not the ones that sat. And don't ask me, ask Peyton Manning, when he was honored by the Mazzella Institute just this last month, said specifically, starting immediately and taking the lumps, and he had a bad rookie year, is critically important to the way you develop your career. You have to find out if you can tread water before you can swim. And to do that, you have to throw them in. The Broncos right now, their over-under on the season is 5.5, Nate.
Easy over.
The expectations are, well, let's talk about that a little bit. But Nate and I might see it differently. But regardless, the expectations for the Broncos are really low. And so this is the opportunity to put Nix in. The Broncos fans understand there's going to be a period in which it's going to acclimate for Nix. There's no reason not to start him unless for whatever reason he's injured. It doesn't help Stidham. It doesn't help Wilson. It doesn't help the Broncos. This is Nix's job.
I mean, and here's the thing, too, and I think Broncos fans need to also talk themselves in the idea, like, if he struggles as a rookie, who cares?
Who cares?
Let him take his lumps.
Exactly
let him
right.
learn, because the best way to learn is by getting reps, getting experience. And I know people are going to say, well, if he doesn't look good right away, then that means it was a bust. Like, that's because social media is around. Like, Peyton Manning would have been a bust his rookie year if social media was around. It would have been more vocal than it was.
A laundry list of quarterbacks.
So many QBs, right? And it's like, I remember Patrick Mahomes, his rookie season in preseason, all he did was throw interceptions, and everyone's like, wow, they got a bust here. So we got to stop writing these narratives so quick. Let it play out. You got to take your lumps along the way. That's about growing. It's not just in football. It's also the same thing in life.
Yeah, this to me is a no-brainer. Fans, and the thing is, like, look, I think there are some stupid fans out there. I'm sorry, there's some stupid fans out there. But I also believe that a fan base that has enjoyed the success and, frankly, the spoiled nature of some of the Broncos fans, I do think that what comes with that, though, is, yes, they have high expectations because of history, okay? But I also think that what that does in terms of the success that they've had is it sets you up for an understanding of what success can look like and an understanding that it has a runway. I think fans, if they recognize progress, if they recognize forward momentum that comes out of a combination of Sean Payton and Bo Nix, that the actual wins and losses won't matter.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. Yes, I do think there are some fans that are going to be stupid enough to take to social media and drop a lot of toxic messaging. But I don't believe that it's going to be something that is universally felt. I think it's going to be the fringe that decides to be vocal and to be kind of a-holes, if we're going to be honest, and that it's the rest of the fan base that will recognize what you just pointed out, and that is he making progress?
Yeah.
If he throws that particular interception, does he do it again in the next game, or did he actually pick up and learn and was smart enough to throw it out of bounds?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
that ends up being the question. And we'll talk more about Bo Nix, and we'll check in with Cody Roark every single day to start off every single one of these shows live from Broncos camp. Thanks a lot for joining us, Cody.
Yes, sir.
Give him a follow on social for all the latest as well.
He's got to go like watch and take notes and stuff.
Take notes.
By the way,
Sean
I want to
Payton
give you a heads up. If Riley Dixon gets a hold of one of those, it is coming straight into our tent.
Yeah, we might be wearing one of those.
It's been close a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of feel like maybe he's dialed it back a notch. Just a little bit, because if he gets a hold of one of these, oh geez, here comes another one. If seriously,
that'd be a good way to start camp on day one, getting hit by a punt.
Well, I'm worried. It's not so much I'm worried. Like, you and I are behind the desk, as you can see if you're watching us on YouTube right now, right? Like, we're behind the desk right now, but that thing bounces. Like, say goodbye to the camera, man.
Yeah.
That thing is just wham.
Well, you'll know, obviously, if you see things go a little sideways. But
I'm just saying. Yeah, Anilo's over here. He's behind the camera right now. I'm going to need Piro,
he's our camera bodyguard.
I'm going to need him to do some blocking. Otherwise, I'm going to have to charge Rolling Smoke Barbecue more for their sponsorship, because I might need them to pay to replace the camera.
Yeah, there's that.
I just want to throw that out there. We do want to say thank you, by the way, to our great friends, Terry, Kook, everybody that is associated with Rolling Smoke Barbecue. They are sponsoring our entire coverage with Sandy and Shawn from training camp these next 3 weeks. They are our number one sponsor. If you're not familiar with Rolling Smoke Barbecue, Terry started out as a food truck more than a decade ago. That's all it was a food truck trying to deliver some really good, authentic hardwood smoked barbecue. And now we're talking about 4 locations, plus he's got a booth up there at Red Rocks. If you're headed out to a concert up at the beautiful venue, you can always stop and grab a bite to eat. Don't do the normal everyday stuff. Go get some really good barbecue if you're at one of the concerts up there at Red Rocks. I said he's got 4 locations. The one that first started it is at the Stanley Marketplace in Aurora. Then he opened up down in Centennial at the corner of Dry Creek and University.
Just had dinner there on Tuesday.
And he opened up at Dry Creek and University. Great spot in the shopping center right across the street, by the way, from Arapahoe High School, if you know that. Then he opened up in the Golden Mill there in Golden, which is another great spot, a lot like the Stanley Marketplace. And then, of course, the newest one, which is a great location for those of you up north in Wheat Ridge. Stop by, see them. Everything is hardwood smoked. The sides are made fresh every single day. And one of the things you want to do, make sure you get there just slightly early, Shawn, around the dinner time, because they take it seriously, which means you run out of burnt ends, you run out of turkey, you run out of the ribs, they're out. You just gotta understand that sometimes stuff is really popular. So stop by and see them, any of those 4 locations. Stop into Rolling Smoke Barbecue. Thank them for sponsoring our coverage at training camp, and tell them Nate and Shawn sent you.
Absolutely. Nate, as we talked about, 7 consecutive losing seasons for the Broncos. This is the longest gap between a Super Bowl champion and missing the playoffs. It's the second in history. It is the second longest active streak of missing the playoffs in the NFL, behind only the New York Jets, who probably, behind Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy, have a chance of breaking into
telling you right now, it's not happening.
And I think you're probably right. But I think you're looking at these two teams. Look, when you and the Jets are sitting all alone at the end of the line, that's bad.
Yes.
And after the course of these years, as the Broncos fans look to turn it around, and you and I disagree with Cody a little bit regarding the Broncos, I think 10 games is outlandish at this point. I can't even imagine that happening.
I think that Cody was drunk before he came on the air.
We're not going to besmirch him like that, but optimism reigns supreme on day one, right? We know that's always the case, but it is interesting because you've gotten the cheers from the fan base. There's some new uniforms. The Broncos tweaked that a little bit, new-ish uniforms, and a new-ish name for the new venue here at the for the practice field and everything. So the Broncos trying a few things new, but in the end, it really is looking at the crowd today, and it's a good crowd. All of the tickets that were given away are used, and yes, the crowds are different now and it's worth noting because when people look at the crowd, say it's not the way it was for years ago. Remember, by the way, weird little factoid for you. Some of that has to do with the fact that when this facility was made, the deal with the Arapahoe County is because of fire codes. You really only supposed to have so many people on the berm, and the county and the Broncos realized they needed to tighten that up a little bit. Yeah. And so the numbers go down, and now that's for safety purposes. But the energy is lower out at the crowd. You can feel it. You can hear it. It is lower. This fan base is excited about the Broncos, but they are 100% tipped into show me, don't tell me.
Yes, they absolutely are. And look, I think that the best possible thing that happened was drafting a first-round quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it's the best thing you could ask for.
It buys you time.
Yes, it does. And I think that's important for all of us to realize. And I think fans recognize it as well. I go back to what we were talking about with Cody right at the end of the last of our segment with him. I believe that this fan base as a whole is a smart fan base. I think they sort of understand what is happening. I don't think they expect to make the playoffs this year. Frankly, if they're smart, I think they should expect that they're not going to make the playoffs for 2 years. I agree with you
completely.
I got to be honest with you.
Same thing. 2026 is the target. Talked about it yesterday.
I think they understand what they're building toward, but I think that where there can wind up being some excitement, whether it is as training camp progresses with these fans on the berm, whether it is preseason, games against the Colts, the Packers, the Cardinals, is do you start to see little flashes of it? I think this fan base, Shawn, is smart enough to understand that you may not see it sustained for 60 minutes, right? You're going to see some mistakes. Look, they're hampered by the dead cap money of Russell. They're hampered by it, and they can't do everything they want to do with this roster. They can't sign everybody that they want to sign. They can't do all the things that they wish that they could do that other teams that have a cap space can do. But I think that if you see flashes of it, you're going to be happy. I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday, actually. We were talking about the Broncos, and my wife and I are season ticket holders. And we were talking about this season, and I said, you know what's going to be fun? I said, they're going to lose. I said, but it's actually going to be a little bit more fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I think that these fans that are up on the hill are looking for. I think it's all that the fans, when they show up for preseason games 2 and 3 at Empower Field, I think that's all they're going to be looking for. Like, just show me something. Don't, like, it's okay if sometimes it's ugly.
Yeah.
But if every now and then it actually has some momentum or something that has you go, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Right. Like if Bo Nix, drops one right in the breadbasket for Tim Patrick for a 40-yard gain, those are the kinds of things that are going to stick in fans' heads over the course of a 17-game regular season to remind them that it's a long runway, but that this team is finally moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think you're right. Well, like I mentioned, we talked about 2026 yesterday. Some of the contracts by Quinn Miners kicks in.
Sure.
You look at some of the guys that are free agents after the end of the year, big money guys, 2 years from now. Cortland Sutton, even with the sweetener added to his contract, contract's up after next year.
I don't think he'll be here, by the way.
I agree. The rest of the dead cap money will go off after 2025. The Broncos are clearly, if by their actions, not their words, targeting 2026 as the opportunity to then figure out if they've got the answer quarterback, build forward, and start making noise towards a playoff spot. And it is 2026. And so for Broncos fans, that isn't a long time to have to wait. But the quick fix idea, switching coaches, switching quarterbacks, doing this over and over again, that's always been problematic. The one thing you have to do in football at times is, yes, you can add a lot of talent and hope it comes together. And sometimes it'll look good at the get-go, and sometimes you'll finish 1-8. Ask Deion Sanders how that works out.
Right.
You can add to the talent, but these guys have to have some experience together. And for a Broncos team that does not return a tremendous amount of starters at a lot of positions, that's looking for starters at other positions, that understands they have issues with the salary cap at this stage, these are all things that over time, it takes a while to clear all this out. And it will take this year, and it will take next year. Fortunately for them, by picking a first-round quarterback, it means that is the runway that Bo Nix has to operate in this year and next year. And I think you're right. As long as you see consistent signs of growth, then there are reasons to believe that at that 2026 season, the Broncos might be able to get into the dance and then start making some noise.
Yeah. Now, let's also remind ourselves of this. Everything that you do to improve this team and its standings, you are operating within your own bubble.
Correct.
Okay. However, you are not the only team trying to improve. See Los Angeles Chargers.
See the Raiders in your own division.
Well, and again, I'm gonna focus specifically on the Chargers for a second. They decided it is time for us to go after a coach that we think can make a difference and can help develop Justin Herbert beyond where he's already been able to
gutted their wide receiver room to do it.
Correct. They did it. So this team in front of us right now is not the only one that is in the process of trying to do that. Right. You brought up the Raiders.
Everybody's chasing the Chiefs.
But everybody is chasing the Chiefs. And that is the thing that the fans need to recognize. The Broncos right now and the fan base in Denver and around this region and around the country that are Broncos fans are experiencing what it has felt like to be a Chiefs fan for the last 20 years.
Right.
When they were chasing Elway and they were chasing Manning and they were chasing, frankly, Plummer and others in trying to get back into a spot where you could actually win the division. It became something where you had to start the season saying, we're not going to win the division.
Right.
What we got to do is get a wild card.
Right.
Right. And that, and you have that mentality. Maybe you get lucky, right? Maybe something happens. But recognize that the Raiders are in the process of doing that right now. I personally do not believe that Antonio Pierce is the answer for them at a head coaching position. I'm just throwing that out there. I think he's good. I don't know that he's going to be the guy to turn that team completely around. We'll see. I think the Chargers absolutely did the right thing with what they did with Harbaugh. And I think that will help them in the right direction as long as Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, who I already said when we were talking to Cody, I'm a big fan of.
It's a lot of Oregon guys in the AFC West.
Yeah, there really are.
Throw the ball around.
It's a pain in the ass is what it is. But you have to recognize that everything that everything that this organization is trying to do is exactly what Vegas is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what the Chargers are trying to do. And oh, by the way, it's not like the Chiefs are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
Right.
They are continuing to say, how can we continue to maintain and take advantage of the prime years that we have of Patrick Mahomes? How do we make sure that we retool just enough that all these other teams that are aiming for us, the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, all of these teams that are aiming at us because we are the AFC favorites, how do we make sure that we don't sit back and go, oh, well, we're the Chiefs, we're going to be fine? They're doing the exact same thing. So recognize for everything that this team is doing right now, you can only focus on what's going on inside your own house, but you got to recognize that your neighbors are also improving theirs.
But you know what? The neighbors have been improving theirs. And the Broncos, I think, inside their bubble have figured that they were further along than they really were for years. And one of the things you talked about specifically, Harbaugh and Herbert. We know about the pairing of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
But let's go about the idea of John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. Talking about getting Lamar Jackson basically another MVP, making him dangerous. The quarterback coach pairing matters maybe more than it ever has before, and it's always mattered in the NFL, but as the passing game becomes the primary way of moving the ball, it's critical. And one of the things the Broncos have not done when it comes to all these switching up coaches, switching up quarterbacks, one or the other, is they haven't invested. And whether you believe that Sean Payton and Bo Nix will work, and I actually think they will work. Will they become Reid Mahomes? I doubt it, because I don't think Nix is that guy. But it doesn't mean that you can't win, and it doesn't mean you can't be effective if these guys are on the same page. And Nix and Payton seem to be on the same page. They play the same style. They want to do the same thing. The question, first and foremost, is does Sean Payton have the patience for a rebuild? He admitted himself right at this beginning of camp in the acclimation periods of the first couple of days that he is also in uncharted territory. Only one game in Sean Payton's career, one, has a rookie quarterback ever started for him. Ian Book, back in 2021, their fourth-round pick out of Notre Dame. Ian Book threw 2 picks in that game and has yet to play another NFL game ever since. So Sean Payton at that point has to change and invest in the rebuild. But that is the most interesting part of this equation, because if Sean Payton is truly invested in a rebuild, whether the Broncos say it or not, then I like the idea that they will be on the right track. Because that's the one thing the Broncos have yet to do over most of the last decade that they needed to do. The first way to get better is you identify that there's a problem, then you own the problem, and then you start taking steps to mitigate the problem. The Broncos had barely gotten to the first one of those stages.
Yes.
Now it feels, given the fact that they moved on from Russell Wilson, they let Justin Simmons walk for nothing. They released him. There's dead cat money left and right. The Broncos seem by actions, if not words, to understand we are rebuilding and we're invested in it. We picked our quarterback. We believe this is the guy. This is the right approach. Whether it succeeds or not, Nate, I don't know. But it's the right approach.
But it's the right approach.
And it's a new approach for the Denver Broncos of late.
Yeah, it is the right approach. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's
doesn't
going
guarantee
to,
success.
It does not guarantee success, but it does mean that you are doing the right things, and that I think is most important.
Yeah, well, we want to remind you, of course, that if you're looking for the perfect place to work, play, exercise, and socialize, look no further than the Denver Athletic Club, right in the heart of downtown Denver. For more than a century, of course, the Denver Athletic Club has been the center of Denver's community. As a DAC member, you'll enjoy top-notch amenities. There's a full fitness center, licensed childcare center, spa, massage, Pilates, a golf simulator, even more. But what truly sets the DAC apart, what has kept it in Denver's heart for more than 100 years, is the vibrant community. This is a member-owned club, and it's all about you. And you think about athletic club, well, it's more than that. Year-round social events, co-working, dining, fun for the entire family. The DAC is truly a club for your whole life. And now for a limited time, new members pay $0 in initiation fees. So find out what the Denver Athletic Club is all about and join the DAC today. Nate, we talked about some of those teams in the AFC West. Let's note one of the couple of things that they have that the Broncos don't. Okay.
Got it.
Travis Kelce for the
a casino right outside their stadium.
Well, they don't have that yet.
Okay.
There's still time for that, I suppose.
There is still time. If they decide they want to, if they do decide they want to develop that area to the south of the stadium, I would just like to throw that out there to Mayor Johnston, Governor Polis, maybe a casino.
Money generated there for sure.
Just gonna throw that out there. Maybe a casino.
But on the field, you're talking about Travis Kelce, right?
Yes.
We watched the Raiders could have picked a quarterback.
Yes.
What they do? They went and got Brock Bowers.
Yes.
You talk about the quarterback's sort of security blanket, it's always been the tight end, right? And
Yes.
it's always been the tight end because the tight end position, but ever since Mike Ditka revitalized the position, is difficult. If they can block and they can catch, then there's really nobody. A little too fast for your linebackers, a little too big for your safeties. They're a mismatch by default. The Broncos have not gotten one. And if you think about what would really help Bo Nix as a rookie, it would be finding a tight end. Yet for years, the Broncos have failed to do it. Now, obviously, when you're talking about Greg Dulcich, they hope he's healthy. But even Dulcich, who was a walk-on at UCLA, is not really a blue-chip guy. He was a promising guy and maybe still promising. The Broncos had to go with Adam Troutman, who I think did a workman-like job. He can block. He can catch. He was fine. But the numbers that he put up were rather pedestrian. Granted, most of the Broncos were in a bad year offensively.
Sure.
But a lot of people look at Lucas Kroll. Lucas Kroll, over the course of the season, had a halfway decent day that Travis Kelce had. 8 catches for 95 yards on the season for Lucas Kroll. And we're hearing all around here how Lucas Kroll is going to be the next star of the Broncos.
Spectacular.
It goes right back to what we were talking about. Show me. Don't tell me. Why can't the Broncos find the answer at this position?
Well, and part of me wants to answer that with, I mean, first of all, I don't know why they haven't been able to do it.
Sean Payton certainly knows that. His best success came with
Jimmy Graham.
Right.
Look, the understanding of the way the NFL has progressed over the course of the last decade and a half, and the importance of having that tight end position, which is in a lot of cases a glorified, oversized wide receiver, I don't think can be overstated. And yet this team has done a piss poor job of filling that spot on the depth chart. I mean, I like it. Famously, you know, I've talked about this a lot. I mean, here comes Riley Dixon trying to kill us again. Look,
do we have
when
to
you
give it
had
back?
when you
If
had
we get it, if it comes into our tent, do we get to keep it?
no, it's like a home run. I'm keeping it. If it comes into the tent, I'm keeping the ball.
You're just gonna bolt. You're
All
just
right.
gonna run. Nate will just be out of the show.
No. I tore my Achilles crossing the street. I'm definitely not going to run. But I'm just going to keep it, and I'm just going to be like, I'm sorry. You snooze, you lose. It's my ball. Look, if we go back and we talk about tight end success that has happened on this team, and look, I'm not going to talk about Shannon Sharp. Sorry, I'm just going to remove that from our discussion. Sure. I want to talk more about what's happened in the last, say, dozen years, and not necessarily about Shannon. I mean, think of some of the names that have been on the roster here. Think about Virgil Green. Right? Julius Thomas, who, speaking of Shannon, famously said he can't block
the sun from his eyes.
Yep. Because Julius couldn't block.
And that's what took him out of the league.
Yes, because
the catching ability was good, but he was a human tell at the poker table.
Yes, he was. And the thing was, the moment he was in the formation,
you're like, well, they're not running.
The defense knew they weren't going to run behind him because he couldn't do it.
Yep.
He could not do it.
You don't have to be a great blocker at tight end, but you have to be a willing blocker and a serviceable blocker. You don't have to be great. Shannon Sharp wasn't great.
Like, let me give you an example.
Just get in the way.
Let me give you an example. And I'm very happy to be able to say that I called this guy a friend after he got done playing, and that's Joel Dreesen. You and I both know him.
By the way, happy birthday.
Yes.
Joel Dreesen. Joel's birthday today. So happy birthday, Joel.
You and I both know Joel. Knew him when he was playing and have known him and his family since. See, here it comes.
Here it comes.
It almost made it to the 10.
6 inches.
It almost made it. When Joel was playing, the advantage that Joel had, Joel was not Travis Kelce. Joel was not a top 10 tight end in the league.
He'd be the first to tell you that.
And he would tell you that. But the difference was when Joel was on the field, he could block,
right,
or he could catch. He could do either one, which at least meant defenses had to be honest with him.
Right.
Okay. They didn't have to do that with Julius Thomas. To a certain extent, I will argue they did not have to do it with Jacob Tamme, who was on that roster with Joel. Back in 2013.
Tamme was more of a receiver, right?
Correct.
Blocking was an
issue. So Joel Dreesen had a value in that you didn't know exactly, a defense didn't know exactly. He wasn't a massive threat.
Offenses are about deception. And a guy like Sean Payton, who obviously is very fond of the whiteboard and coming up with plays. Not having the ability to deceive the defense has to be immensely frustrating.
Yes.
But he runs this team, and this is now his second off season in which he was able to acquire players, and they weren't able to fix this.
And so I feel like there's got to be some sort of plan for what they want to do at that position, because it's too vital in the NFL these days to not have a good tight end. But until you can show me that a Dulcich or a Troutman or a Kroll can go out there, and that a defensive coordinator on the opposite sideline is not quite sure, is this guy going to go out in a flat? Is he going to go out is he doing a sideline route, or is he staying in to block? Until you have that threat,
right,
I don't know that you have anything. It becomes a wasted position. And Broncos fans, if we do want to talk about Shannon Sharp, we're spoiled in the idea of having a really good tight end. This team needs one. It has been, as a fan, I told you that I'm a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
As a fan of this team, outside of the quarterback position for the last 7 years, my biggest bitch about this team is not having a tight end. It's frustrating, Sean.
Yeah.
They need it. They need it.
This? Okay. Troutman had 204 yards receiving. He was their top receiving tight end, right?
200 and what?
204. I'm going to try to do some quick math. Kroll had 95, as I told you. So let me that's 299, right?
Yeah.
Dulcich had 25, so that's
Sad
324.
trombone.
And Nate Atkins and Chris Manhertz had a grand total of 38.
But
They did not get to 400 yards total receiving from their entire tight end room. To get an idea of where that is, Nate, how do you rank Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys as a tight end? Is he one of the top tight ends?
No,
Jake
middle
Ferguson alone had 761 yards. If you were to look with the tight end numbers of what the Denver Broncos did on the whole, how about this? Cade Otton, the 96th leading receiver in the NFL, as a tight end, had 455 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is better than the entire Denver Broncos tight end room last year. And Cade Otton is certainly nobody's idea of a stand-up. The Broncos don't even have a Cade Otton if you combine everybody they've got on their roster.
And I think that's what I'm trying to get to, is like I can't climb inside Sean Payton's head, nor frankly do I want to. But at some point there's got to be like a plan here. Like, what are you going to do? You need a tight end. In today's offense, you got to have one. I don't care if he's, especially, by the way, if this is going to be a run-first team, which I think it will be, especially with a rookie quarterback, then you better have a guy that can block.
Yep.
You're just going to bring in a sixth offensive lineman and have it. Is he just basically going to tap his chest and be like, I'm eligible?
And that's why this is
on every damn play.
And one, I mean, that's not the worst idea.
No, it's not.
But it's going to be Adam Troutman for that reason.
But you're missing this key cog.
Yes.
And it pisses me off as a fan. You've got to figure it out.
And that's actually why there was even some discussion, at least, from a lot of fans. Would it be a good idea to maybe pick Bowers instead of Bo Nix? And I don't think it was, because you're so quarterback desperate.
You needed that. You had to do it. I don't fault them.
If you finish where you and I think this team finish, all of a sudden looking at the best tight end in the country coming out of college, if you're the Broncos, you might have to look at that with your first-round pick.
You may need to start
critical.
You may need to start thinking about it. If you believe that
Bo Nix is going to be your quarterback, if you see over the 2024 season that Bo Nix shows you the signs that he can be the guy, then you have got to focus on getting him some help, and that's at the tight end spot. Again, I went and looked. I had to dig further down, of course, into the depths of the internet to find this. The closest comparison, 352 yards for a tight end, 131th leading receiver in the league. Luke Musgrave, the backup tight end for the Green Bay Packers last year.
Another Duck, by the way, right? Isn't he a Duck? No, or is he my Oregon State guy?
Musgrave, Oregon State.
Luke Musgrave, Oregon State. Thank you. That's what I thought. But I didn't want to.
Musgrave basically represented almost exactly statistically what the Denver Broncos tight end production was as a team. That can't happen. This has to be improved. There's no way to do it this year, and it's another reason why we're trying to set some of the expectations here. This is a rebuild year. Don't worry about what the Broncos are saying about it. And you know what? I give them credit too, because you weren't hearing any big. You didn't hear Sean Payton this offseason saying, I'm going to be pissed if we don't make the playoffs. You didn't hear that. The Broncos and Payton understand, for one of the first times in Payton's career, something that he has been loath to do. They are rebuilding. And I think we'll find out more as the season starts. It seems in the early going, at least, that sort of accepting that has maybe revitalized some of the coaching juices for Sean Payton.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
You've got who you've got. And now you're going to have to coach them up. And that's something that when you're filled with stars, you don't have to do as much.
Yeah, you start to figure out where some of the value exists. But I mean, look, when this team gets to where they have some cap friendly options, shall we say,
a couple of years from now,
I think they will have the ability to do some things. Like I just pulled up just because I was trying to remember. You and I talked on yesterday's show about Caleb Williams,
right.
The rookie quarterback for the Bears. And Cole Kmet is the leading tight end for the Bears.
I think he's going to get more than 356 yards.
But guess what? The number 2 tight end is Gerald Everett.
Yep.
Who had 411 yards,
also more than the entire Broncos
for the
tight end
Chargers last year. He and Parham actually combined for almost 700 yards between them and 7 touchdowns.
And by the way, that's not even good anymore.
The third string tight end is Mercedes Lewis, who I understand is on the back end of his career and the like, but like you got 3 potentially starting tight ends in Chicago
that, unlike Greg Dulcich and Lucas Kroll, have proven NFL resumes.
Yes.
And the Broncos are betting on some of these guys bubbling up, and maybe they will. Hopefully they will. But you can sort of see the difference between what is hope and what is a plan.
Yeah.
And right now the Broncos are operating, at least in the tight end position, based on hope.
Yeah. And so I was just throwing it out there as an example of when you get to the point where maybe, and who knows, maybe somebody gets cut by another team toward the end of camp,
maybe it's Mercedes Lewis,
or maybe you're like
becomes the best tight end here,
or maybe you're sitting back going, hey, here's a conditional 7th rounder, so that you don't have to try to worry about waivers, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as there may be some options if you don't see it out here, but son of a bitch, they got to figure out this.
If
position,
you're all
Shawn.
in on Bo Nix, you have to be all in on improving that position.
You do.
You simply have to.
And
there's nothing wrong.
Do it.
I think there's a spot on this team for an Adam Troutman. I think there's a spot on most NFL teams for an Adam Troutman.
Yes.
But if he's your tight end 1, your tight end room is not.
That's what I'm not enjoying. That's what I'm not enjoying right now. I think that is what we're missing. Yeah. I think that's what's hiding from this team right now.
Well, there's another competition involved too. We'll talk a little bit more about the cornerbacks, which might be the most interesting one on the team. But of course, you mentioned the idea of a casino. That's not in the offing
I want that.
But there are lots of other ways that you can get involved in the sports betting.
Well, I'm just saying, you got that whole area there on the old south side of the stadium that's industrial. I'm just saying, throw in, let's throw in a Caesars property there or something. Why not? It'd be fun. I'm just saying.
Doesn't the NFL have like 4 different official partners or something like that? Yeah. Like somebody probably wants it, right?
Somebody's willing to write a check.
You can jump in on that.
But you can actually jump in without having to wait for there to be, a casino right next to the stadium. And you can do that with the fact that we are now entering our 5th year of sports betting being legalized here in Colorado. And we recognize that for some of you that are getting into sports betting, or if you're somebody that has been a part of it, but you recognize that there are these sign-up offers, there's all these different bonuses and things that all the different books have. It's not easy to keep track of all of that. And so what we did at milehighsports.com is we created the Colorado Online Sports Betting page. It exists right there on our website. The link to it is in the upper right-hand corner of the page. And if you go there and you click on it, we have cultivated all of the offers in one place for you. So let's say you're somebody that, you've already got the FanDuel app on your phone, but you're like, you know what? I got a buddy of mine that uses BetMGM. I want to check that out. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're somebody that has been a part of Caesars because you thought the Mannings were funny in the ads. I don't know. But you say, you know what? I want to check out Bet365. I want to see what else is out there in terms of my sign-up bonuses, or I want to see what their interface is like. Go to that page on our website at milehighsports.com. Just click on the Colorado Online Sports Betting page, and you're going to see all of the different offers listed, and you can find the one that is right for you. milehighsports.com, whether you're on your phone or you're on your laptop, whatever it is, you're going to see a link there in our menu for Colorado Online Sports Betting. Go to that homepage and you will see all of the offers. It's our gift to you, trying to simplify things and make it so that as you get ready for football season, as you get ready for Avs, as you get ready for Nuggets, as you get ready for the Buffs, the Rams, everybody, all those signups are in one spot. Find the one that's right for you, milehighsports.com.
Yeah, check it out. You can have the fun that way and jump in at your pace, the way you want to do it. It's nice and easy. Talked about the quarterback quote unquote competition. That's not really one of them, but there really is a competition, Nate, and maybe the most important one. We talked about Patrick Mahomes. We talked about Justin Herbert. Who's going to start opposite Pat Surtain? Now, the most veteran guy is Levi Wallace from the Bills, but there's always a bit of buyer beware. The idea, at least with Buffalo, which is a legitimate Super Bowl contender, when they let Wallace walk, the idea is, well, when that happens, why, right? I mean, why would that happen? So obviously, when you're talking about Wallace, you have a more experienced guy, but Damari Mathis got exposed in his second year. Now, maybe there's a bounce back, but to my mind, Pat Surtain is what he is, and he's a very, very good technician. He's not a ball-hawking cornerback. He's a guy that denies completions, and he's very valuable, and he's about to make himself a whole bunch of money. So nothing wrong with that. But unless you have someone opposite him that can actually be problematic, they're just going to pick on the other side and stay away from him all the time. Broncos at this stage, right now, honestly, if you were to tell them, ask them right now, who's the starter? They have no idea. They probably would love for it to be Riley Moss, if you're reading between the lines with Sean Payton. But again, you're talking about a second-year guy that only played a handful of games and dealt with injury, a veteran in Wallace, hopefully a bounce back from Mathis. I guess you still have guys that are around from last year as well, kind of in the depth and the periphery there. You know, Tremon Smith popped in here and there. But for the most part, this is a situation on the outside where they don't know what they've got. I think in the slot with Jaquan McMillan, they're comfortable with that. But who's going to be on the opposite and cover that other guy?
Well, and obviously they've done what they need to do in terms of bringing Wallace in. And here's one thing I will say about Wallace I like
the addition.
I like the addition. I'm going to take the last 3 seasons for you. So his last season in Buffalo and then the last 2 years with the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're talking a guy that played 17 games, 15 games, and 16 games. So he's on the field.
Durability is important.
He's got durability, right? Our good friend Chad Brown always talks about that when he was playing for the Patriots, they had the sign up that said the most important ability is availability. You need to be able to. There's a giant grasshopper on your laptop.
We have a guest.
Can you see it on you can see it on the camera shot.
Yeah. One of our
Danny Bailey's here, executive producing, and just cracking up right now.
One of our listeners joined us today in the tent.
We've got a grasshopper.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave him be. It's probably good luck. It's good luck.
Yes, grasshopper.
Yeah, it's good luck.
So first of all, the durability to me is important, right? Because Pat Surtain has that for you, be able to be out there on the field. You need somebody, because I believe in the secondary that consistently lining up opposite your tag team partner is important.
It is.
Right? The same way for a quarterback, having his receiving core being consistent game in and game out is important. Having your offensive line be consistent game in and game out so that you're on the same cadence and all those kinds of things. For me in the secondary, it's where's my right corner, where's my left corner, where's my slot, and can those guys actually stay consistently on the field together, because it improves the communication.
Correct.
And so to me, first and foremost, he's got to be on the field.
You've lost Justin Simmons, or more accurately, you've moved on from Justin Simmons, who was a great communicator.
Sucks.
Yeah, it does. You saw what happened when the Broncos were humiliated by the Dolphins. Justin Simmons was not on the field.
Correct.
It got better when Justin Simmons was on the field. They lose him as well. And there's stuff to talk about the safety position, though I like Brandon Jones quite a bit. And I think, I'm glad you're taking the picture.
I got to take a picture of this grasshopper.
Yeah,
this is just tripping me out, man.
I want to make sure there's nothing sketchy on my computer.
We got to go. We got one viewer.
There you go.
And he's right there, or she.
Joined the show. It's kind of weird too. If you're a grasshopper, right?
How the heck did he get on your computer?
They can fly a little bit, but I mean, I'm confused, right? It is. If you're a grasshopper,
he does not seem to be interested in jumping either. He's
he's comfortable. He's happy. We're cool guys. But I mean,
he's just walking.
What are we looking at? We are looking at like Thanksgiving every day for grasshoppers.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
it's a good-looking field.
It is a good-looking grass field. I mean, you can just munch all day, but he's sitting on my computer.
And by the way, Riley Dixon is done practicing, so this field is wide open. He should not. I don't understand why he's going to be.
He's hiding. We're going to adopt him. We're going to have to send in names for our mascot here, our grasshopper mascot.
We need somebody hit us up on Twitter. We need submissions for his name.
Now he's just poking over. He's poking over it a little bit.
Anyway, I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about. Cornerback.
Cornerback.
Sorry, this is really distracting that there's a grasshopper on the computer here.
Live programming, everybody.
It's what we do here.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want the consistency of whoever it's going to be, and I think it's going to be Wallace, lining up opposite Pat on a consistent basis so that you can build that chemistry, that communication, who's doing what, because the loss of Justin Simmons cannot be overstated.
The communication breakdown
cannot be overstated.
Brandon Jones is a good player. Brandon Jones's challenge has been staying on the field, not
Correct.
his ability to play. So that's fine too. But yes, you are asking for a big jump, and I agree with you. Wallace makes sense because he's a vet. That will help pick up that slack. But when you're all focused on the quarterback position, think about who you are facing. Think about the Broncos' schedule. Look at the quarterbacks you'll be talking about. Well, you'll get Russell Wilson. You'll get Baker Mayfield. You'll get Aaron Rodgers. You get Justin Herbert twice. You're going to get Derek Carr. You're going to get Bryce Young. Who knows what that is? You get Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes twice. Kirk Cousins. Deshaun Watson. I mean, Anthony Richardson. Look at these guys that they've got. And by the way, Joe Burrow at the end of the year too.
Oh, yeah.
There is such a level of quarterbacking play, especially in the AFC, but even in the teams they're facing right now.
It's just nuts.
They will get picked to pieces if they don't find a secure, safe answer opposite of Surtain. And the pass rush is part of it. I went over that yesterday as well, and we'll have time to talk about that as camp goes along. But this cornerback position, to me, is the most important one on the team, not the cornerback. Not the quarterback, it is the cornerback, the guy on the other side, because that I think will go farther in deciding the Broncos' record than even who's taking the snaps.
Yeah, I think it has to be because you're reliant upon this defense to keep you close enough in games that you do not have.
You don't want to win shootouts.
No, and you don't have to put an extraordinary amount of pressure on the shoulders of Nix. Those are the things that are going to help him. Like you talked about, we talked about it previously about the idea of the tight end and being a rookie quarterback's good friend, and you want to have somebody that can help. Why is Alfred trying to call me right now? Alfred is here. Why is Alfred trying to call me?
He just wanted to see where you're at.
I'm on the air, Al.
No.
Sorry.
He didn't know that.
He's around. I literally just saw him. Why is he calling me?
I assume Sandy was going to be on.
It's just weird. That's just weird. Where are you, Al?
This first day camp has this sort of the weird high school class reunion.
It's a high school class reunion. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it does feel like that a little bit
Alfred's
here and there.
me.
But it's
look,
you're a popular guy, Nate.
You need to be able to keep. That's not true. We need to be able to keep some of these games close so that you do not put any kind of quote unquote panic mode into Nix trying to scoreboard chase
without a tight end.
Without a tight end, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going to be, I think, very telling, in particular over the course of the first 5 games of the season. I think that is extremely telling. And part of the reason I say that is because 3 of those 5 games are on the road. So you're going to take a rookie quarterback and you're going to put him in a hostile environment, including one of the best home field advantages in all of the NFL of Lumen Field in Seattle.
Right.
And by the way, that's where you're going to throw him to the Wolves.
Certainly the loudest. Yeah.
I think that Lumen Field is one of the best home field advantages in all of the NFL. And so you're going to put him into that type of an environment. Well, you need your defense to help you out. You need your defense to do some things that keeps the crowd out of it. You need your defense to do some things so that you are not down 3 touchdowns, so that you're within a couple of scores. Maybe it's a 10-point game. It's a 14-point game. I'm not asking for miracles here. Okay. I'm not asking to go into Arrowhead and win 34-7.
Right.
I'm not. That's not what I'm expecting.
Not even asking to go into Arrowhead and win at this point.
No, not at all. But what I am asking is to be able to keep things in a game script that is manageable as you continue to teach him the professional level of football.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And so whoever lines up opposite Pat Surtain is a big part of that. Whoever can be successful in in communicating, in talking to the guys in the secondary. That Simmons was your guy to do that. Was the guy to be able to bark and go, move. I need you here. I need you here. And you need that. And you're going to be missing it with Simmons, and you've got to find a way to have something serviceable on the other side. Otherwise, going all the way back to what you said at the very beginning of this topic, teams are going to avoid Pat Surtain, but they're going to eat the other side of the field for lunch. Right.
And that's where I bring up the next part with losing Simmons and looking into Wallace and looking at their career histories. Simmons, of course, as we know here in Denver, has led the NFL in interceptions since he came into the league. Yeah. The whole NFL, everybody. Levi Wallace has 12 picks in his career. There's nothing wrong with that. Pat Surtain has 7 in his 3 years. And Jaquan McMillan in his rookie year had 2.
And by the way, 2 years ago with the Steelers, Wallace had 4.
4. Right.
He had 4. He's had at least 2 every year except for his rookie season.
How critical
is it? He is somebody that might be able to ball hawk here and there.
And I look at it and I do think it's important to find stability, but I do think you also have to get a ball hawk. The way you play defense in the NFL has changed. And it's funny because it depends on who you're talking to, has it changed. If you are Vic Fangio, or the sort of the bend but not break, that world has changed to a certain extent. If you are Wade Phillips, see ball, get ball, that's still how the NFL defenses work.
Vaughn, go get me the ball.
Exactly. And Brian Billick comes on this program from time to time.
He does.
Super Bowl winning coach of the Ravens. And we're looking forward to talking to him again. But he's talked about this on the air. He's talked about it off the air with me. He's talked about it with you as well at a Super Bowl a couple times. Nowadays in the NFL, the defense cannot be about limiting points. The defense has to be about turning the field over, taking the ball away, because the way the rules are structured, so heavily tilt the field to the offense, that all you really do is bleed more slowly. You have to be able to find at certain points in the game to take the ball away from the offense. How critical is it that the Broncos find ball hawks, and maybe multiple ball hawks, if the defense is going to be that kind of weapon for the Broncos, as opposed to just something that you hope keeps water from leaking in?
Well, and look, part of the reason that the Broncos defense was what it was in Super Bowl 50 was because the no-fly zone made it so that the front seven
could tee off. Yep.
That's not what I'm expecting out of this defense this season. But if you've got just enough of a threat that frees up a guy like Alex Singleton, that gives you some opportunities to maybe wreak a little havoc.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Blitz somebody you're not that you don't expect to blitz.
Not a ton, but by the time you're playing the Jets in week 4, can you get to Aaron Rodgers a couple of times?
Right.
Just to be able to
you know
help.
how that torn Achilles works, right? He should be slower.
Yeah, well, he will be.
Yeah,
he will be.
So,
an update for those of you that are watching on YouTube. Said Grasshopper has now left the laptop, but is climbing around on Alex Singleton.
On Alex Singleton on our current magazine.
We have the golf issue with Alex Singleton on the cover, and he's now climbing on Alex Singleton. I just wanted to give everybody an update.
Yeah.
We will continue to keep you apprised of the status of our Grasshopper. Can you still see it, Danny?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not looking at the feed right now, so I didn't know if you could still see him.
Yeah, he's been here for like a half hour. He's chilling, so it's nice to have him.
This is just fascinating. I'll keep.
Yeah.
You do your thing. I'm going to keep an eye on it.
Well, if the Grasshopper isn't interested in the beautiful grass here at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Broncos. I'm going to say Dove Valley. You all know where it is. So if it doesn't like that, well, there's all sorts of beautiful grass out at the city of Denver Golf. Obviously, terrific courses out there, and it's time for you to get out and play some. It's beautiful outside. City of Denver has the perfect golf pass for you, whether you're just getting started or you've played for decades. The practice and play passes for those new to the game to practice what they've learned and transition it onto the golf course. The Learn and Play Pass 1.0 is geared towards adult beginners, people that have never held a club, or players looking to advance their game. Nate Lundy and I are adults, and we have held clubs, but
that's
we probably
questionable.
Should have this particular pass here, that 1.0. Yeah, but if you've been playing for a while, you can go to the Learn and Play Pass 2.0, designed to be flexible for intermediate players looking to improve and fine-tune their game. Or if you're just looking to have some fun, that's great too. The Friends and Family Pass lets you play mini golf or hit the driving range, and every time you go, you can bring up to 3 guests with you every time. You can enjoy golf without having to spend the time on the course as well and play the way you want to play. With 8 unique courses, opportunities for all skill levels, Denver Golf's perfect for anyone. So learn more about everything Denver Golf has to offer by visiting cityofdenvergolf.com. Come home to play. Denver Golf is your neighborhood course. We are in the second season, first day of training camp, second season for Sean Payton as head coach. Sean Payton, as I liked to say last year, very much the sort of French monarch of football teams in l'état c'est moi, which is French for I am the state. Sean Payton is the Denver Broncos now. George Payton works for Sean Payton. Sean Payton runs this team from stem to stern. It is year 2. He moved away from Russell Wilson. He made sure the Broncos had the biggest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL, more than double any other one. We know that means the rebuild is on. If that's the case, Nate, what does success really look for? Because you and I have been throwing cold water on it. We're going to continue to. The playoffs ain't it.
No, it's
so
not.
What does success look like if it's not going to be playing into January?
Success is that by January 5th, which is the end of the regular season,
probably a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, unless they're so far ahead that they just kind of
so the success
bench everybody.
Success to me is by January 5th, I'm able to say that that Bo Nix is their quarterback.
That you're comfortable that walking into 2025, they have their guy.
This team could go 4-13, and I wouldn't give a crap as long as I know that they have answered the quarterback position, that they have answered the most important position in professional sports, that they have answered that question, and now they can focus on the other positions on the field. On January 5th, 2025, if not sooner, I want to be able to say that as a fan, and that will tell me that there is success with Sean Payton, because it's not a matter of Sean Payton having come in here and inherited a quarterback like he did with Russell Wilson.
They identified one.
They
acquired
identified him,
got him to the level.
Drafted him, and they started to develop him. They did not. The development of Bo Nix, Shawn, is not going to be a 2024 sentence with a period on the end of it. This is a development process.
Yeah.
It is going to start this year, and then it is going to continue. But the real question is, did it start in 2024? Did it show progress in 2024? Did you have fans in the stands go, okay?
Are there more number 10 jerseys in the stands at the end of the year than there were at the beginning?
Yeah.
Of the
Do
year?
you start to go, okay, wait a minute.
Maybe we got something here.
Maybe we got something here. That's what I want to be able to have. I want to be able to casually sit at a sports bar somewhere in the Denver metro area, which I am known to do, and say to somebody random, like,
they're on track.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's not so bad. Because if Bo Nix is showing that, that also tells me that Sean Payton is the right person for the job.
Right.
Because now you've married those two people together, and going all the way back to something you said about 45 minutes ago, we know that exists between Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, right? We are going to see if it exists between Harbaugh and between Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert.
Right.
We're going to find out if that's the case in Los Angeles, and we're going to find out if it's the case here.
That part is interesting, because let's say this team does not have the record that I think fans are hoping for. Let's say it's closer to what you and I think. We talked about that over-under in Vegas being 5.5, and you and I were both taking the under. We both think this is probably a 5-win team. But that also means you're probably sitting around with a top 7 pick at worst.
Yes.
And if you've identified your quarterback already and have a top 7 pick, now you have options. If you still need a quarterback, you have to get a quarterback, period. And that's, there's no two ways about it. So in that regard, it's another reason why we go back to what we talked about at the beginning. There's no quarterback competition. It's Bo Nix, and it has to be Bo Nix, because if your team's not going to be very good, you're going to have a top 10 pick at worst anyway. You have to identify whether this guy's your quarterback or not, because you might need to look at Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers or Shedeur Sanders or whoever else may be coming out and bubbling up. You may need to look at that, unfortunately. You may need to act quickly, because you don't know when you'll be in a spot to draft those guys again, and that's why it has to be Nix. But you are right. If Nix looks like the guy, and he's not going to look like John Elway or Peyton Manning, okay? Whatever that. Could he look maybe like a Jake Plummer, statistically? Maybe.
Yeah.
And then you would think you can win with that, obviously.
I'm okay with that.
So if you have that, and you now have a top 10 pick, and maybe even a reasonably high one, you can go get a tight end. You can go replace Garrett Bowles with the best tackle in the country. You can go ahead and trade that down for a king's ransom for teams that are quarterback desperate. Now, all of a sudden, the rebuild in 2025, which will be happening again, it's a 2-year process at minimum. Now you can jumpstart it and jump into 2025 with even more assets. So this season, it is reductive to say it is all about Bo Nix, but it is not an over-exaggeration to say it's a lot about Bo Nix.
Well, here's what I would say. It starts with Bo Nix, but it doesn't end there.
Correct.
He is the focal point, and he should be the focal point. He should be the focal point.
I mean,
for the
he
fans.
is Sean Payton's avatar on the field. I mean, that's what he's here for.
That is what he is here to be able to do. But it doesn't end at that position. Everyone understands that there are other holes on this team, other places that they need to improve. They need somebody to line up opposite Pat Surtain.
Right.
They need, I think, another really, really solid offensive lineman.
I agree. Well, Garrett Bowles, the free agent.
They need at least one.
And he'll be 33 next year.
Yeah, they need at least one, if not two.
You don't know who the center is.
Yep, they need to answer some additional questions in that front five on the offensive line.
I think they need more playmakers on offense, whether it's running back, wide receiver. We talked
I
about
think
tight end.
they need all of those kinds of things. But as you start to free up the cap space, going back to what we talked about yesterday,
high draft picks in every round.
We talked about it yesterday. If you've got a high draft pick next year and maybe a middle of the pack draft pick in 2026, you can make some damage. Right. But you also now suddenly the wallet is open on the cap to be able to smartly spend it on the places that you say, tell you what, we don't have time to draft and develop at this spot. We need to go grab X free agent.
Right. We talked about it. You're right. We talked about it yesterday. If you missed any part of it, if you've subscribed already watching this on YouTube, thank you. And you can go back and check it. But when Nick dropped in yesterday for a segment, brought up the fact that it's a year out.
Oh, yeah.
But the Broncos, following the 2025 season, with their current contracts, will have more than $230 million available on the cap.
Yes.
This team is built to relaunch in reality in 2026. And so success this season involves which steps they're taking towards that. Are they on pace? And these things don't go on that steep curve. It's not a 45-degree angle. It starts slow.
It's an airplane, folks.
Right. It starts slow, and then hopefully you get that really sharp takeoff.
Yes.
And this year is going to be that start slow at times. It is a difficult schedule. You're in a very difficult division in the hardest conference. It's going to be a tough road. It's going to be a bumpy road. But there will be opportunities for success that don't necessarily match statistical output. And I think that's part of it too. When you look at Bo Nix's stats, and you alluded to this earlier, Nate, I think it was a pretty good point. It is not necessarily about, Bo Nix has to throw this many yards for it to be a good year, or he has to throw this many touchdowns to have a good year. What I want to see is when Bo Nix throws an interception, and he will.
Oh, yeah.
Does he do it again? He will make the wrong read. He will make the wrong throw. Every player does. The question is not about avoiding mistakes. Mistakes happen. The questioning is how quickly do you learn from the mistake and not make it again? And even if you see those, for example, Peyton Manning in his rookie year, that's okay as long as the season goes along, you can see a terrible throw one of these games that's a pick six, and you're like, wow, terrible read, totally looked like a rookie quarterback. But if he doesn't do it again all year, then you realize, okay, this guy is learning. He has the ability. It's not about statistical measurements. It's not necessarily even about wins and losses. This is about these incremental steps that are going to happen in between these sidelines that may not actually end up in stats that are exciting for the fantasy folks or even in wins and losses. It's incremental measurements that are going to be judged a yard at a time by a coaching staff and by players that hopefully are all pulling on the rope in the same direction.
I would make a comparison to what the Packers are doing right now.
Okay.
And that is, we talk about Jordan Love, okay, who is going to get paid. Jordan's going to get a lot of money. Jordan Love's going to get a lot of money. Matt LaFleur, as a head coach, has a quarterback that he feels confident in. That team made the playoffs last year, but I'd like to remind you that team went 9-8.
Yep.
The reason they made the playoffs is because of the way the NFC is structured and the way the NFC North is structured, and it's not the same as what the Broncos are facing within their own division.
NFC right now is way softer.
Yes, it's much softer. But I want to make that comparison because you're talking about a team that was one game above 500.
Mm-hmm.
That just happened to be good enough for them to get into the playoffs. But let's say that they didn't get into the playoffs. I know that Packers fans are spoiled.
I'd feel just as bullish about Jordan Love if they had lost one last game.
Bingo.
I would.
And so what I want you to do is, I know that Love only started last year. Okay. I know it's only 1 year for him. But given the dynamics of the AFC, Broncos fans, put yourself in the same thought process as where the Packers were. Let's say they missed the playoffs last year. Let's say they made the playoffs this year. All right. Well, isn't that some of the trajectory that we are hoping for from a Broncos standpoint, which is just start to ramp your way up? I think LaFleur is a good coach. Mm-hmm. I think Jordan Love is a good quarterback. Do I think he's elite in the NFL? No, I'm not ready to put that tag on him yet, but I think he's good.
Yeah.
And I think the Packers have found a guy that
you can win with
their team. Yes, that can lead them.
Yes.
Is he going to win a Super Bowl for them? I don't know. They only won one with Rodgers. Go read the piece that I wrote on milehighsports.com about Rodgers and Jokic. So there's some comparisons there, and part of the reason I bring it up is because of the spoiled nature of the fans.
Right.
Packers fans went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And you know what? Broncos fans are still coming from John Elway and Peyton Manning.
Yes.
And the idea that there's another John Elway or Peyton Manning just around the bend. Look, here's the reality. You Bronco fan watching this, and I'm sorry, it's not really a thing, I guess, for day one. We are all mortal, and
Yes.
you will probably not live long enough to see another John Elway or Peyton Manning play for the Broncos.
Check this out. Hold on.
Our grasshopper's on.
Our grasshopper is on the microphone.
Literally on the mic.
He is on the
Do they
microphone
make noise?
right now.
In the movies, they make noise. Do they actually make noise? Can we
This
can
is
we pot him up?
spectacular.
Can we pot him up? Let's pot up
Let's
our guest,
see.
the grasshopper.
Okay, so Danny is turning his mic on.
Okay, let's just be quiet and see if he makes any noise.
Right now, he's staring at me. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
He's like, "Who the hell are
That's
you?"
a new one,
dude?
though. This is combined 28
The
years of camp for
grasshopper
us.
has made its way across here.
And he's
Do you think
now
he'll
on-
jump if I move it?
Yeah.
Hang
Well,
on, let
maybe
me
not.
see.
No,
Let me
he's very
see. Hold
chill.
on. He's very, very chill.
Oh, wow.
Y'all see this? Oh crap!
Oh, he's still hanging
Do you
on.
see this, y'all? Like he just moved. He was on the top by the
There you
actual mic input.
He's been here for like a half hour.
He's just chilling, y'all.
Yeah. Got to get it.
I want you to understand that this is the kind of hard-hitting analysis that you get with Mile High Sports.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, you have to be. Look, this is live programming. You have
By
to
the
be
way-
able. You got to be able to adjust and adapt.
By the way, you know why you get this stuff from Mile High Sports? Because we don't take ourselves too seriously. That's exactly why we appreciate you being fans. And I know Shawn mentioned it a second ago. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor and smash that subscribe button while you're there.
I mean, you don't have to smash it. If you
Well,
just
just
click
hit
gently,
it.
it'll
Hit
be
it for us.
We're not
Which,
going to be
we-
responsible for broken
we would
phones.
we would appreciate it if you would do it. Shawn and I will be back here live 11 a.m. on Monday for as training camp continues. So go ahead and subscribe. Maybe set up some alerts so you know when we go live. Look at this dude. This is just cracking me up, man.
Yeah, he's been there the whole time. He's
Like,
just
I'm
hanging out.
sorry. I know that I'm like,
You
guys,
know what though? I feel
guys,
like
here's the
we
thing.
did.
I'm like Doug in Up. Squirrel. Like, that's me. If you followed me long enough, I've been doing this now. This is my 15th training camp. You understand that that's how my brain works,
Yeah.
even when I'm on the air. No matter what happens, even on altitude, that's just how my brain works, y'all. I just get distracted very easily.
think
But for crying out loud, there's a grasshopper trying to co-host the show
I think that was Denver sports radio history. I feel confident no one has ever put a grasshopper
on the air.
on the air before. Right
That's
on the
a
mic.
first.
Better to be first.
Better to be first.
Better to be first.
You watch.
No
Everybody,
one's ever done it. They're all gonna
everybody-
try to find a grasshopper.
Everybody else, including those clowns that are across the street like a homeless encampment, they're now going to follow us. They're going to wind up.
grasshopper.
They're going to wind up. See, now he's trying to listen. He's going into the headphone.
Yeah, he's listening.
He wants to know what we're saying.
Yeah, you're gonna try to find one now. Trend setting, right?
It's
here.
just, it's insane.
Well, he is maybe looking for a new home.
yes,
You know,
I think
found
he
a
is
spot in
actually.
his
That's
camp,
why he's
but-
in our tent.
Right, and the Colorado real estate market is tricky, Nate. So
It is. So let's talk about our friends at Key Real Estate Group. That's Dave and Mark, who Shawn and I have known for a very long time. If you are in the real estate market right now, that could mean any number of things. It could mean that, maybe your family's expanding, you need some more space. Maybe the kids are off to college and you can downsize. Maybe you are somebody that's looking for an investment property, a rental, something like that. Doesn't matter what it is you're looking for. When we talk about the Colorado Luxury Home Team, we're not talking about having to have a luxury home per se. What they talk about with luxury is the service. You are getting impeccable service when you're working with Dave and Mark. And when you try to work with some of these big real estate groups that are around Denver and around the Front Range, they're going to brag about their sales history and all of that, and then they're going to hand you off to an assistant. And that's what's going to happen. And you're not actually going to get to work with that person who's, quote, bragging about their sales history. You're going to be working with an assistant. That's not how it works with Dave and Mark. When you work with the Colorado Luxury Home Team, when you're working with Key Real Estate Group, you are working specifically with Dave and Mark, and they are with you every single step of the way, whether that is because you're selling and making sure that you've got the fantastic listing photos. Maybe it's drone footage. Maybe your property happens to sit on some land and they're doing that. Whatever it is, they are with you every step. They are not handing you off to somebody else. They make sure that you and your family are taken care of. And so if you're thinking about buying, you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about a second property, give them a call at 720-900-LIST, L-I-S-T. That is the phone number for Dave and Mark, 720-900-LIST, or you can find them online at keyrealestategroup.com. When you talk to Dave and Mark, tell them that Shawn and Nate sent you.
You're talking about drones.
Yes.
Do you know how to fly a drone? You ever flown a drone?
I have never flown a drone. I have not. Although I do know that apparently the Canadian women's soccer coach got in trouble.
Exactly.
For flying a drone. Yeah.
They were spying on
That's
opponents.
some Bill Belichick-ish
They flew
right there.
a drone over the other team's practice.
Like, what the heck, man? Like even Bill Belichick is going, all right, that's ballsy.
Well, I don't know if you would have had the tech back then, probably would have gone for it. But yeah, how about that? Already your first Olympic scandal, and it comes from Canada. Who had that one?
I
didn't have that one.
did not have
no.
Canada on my bingo card in terms of Olympic cheating scandals.
Yeah.
I might have started with some other countries that have a history of it. I don't think I would have started with Canada.
Yeah, how about this? So Bev Priestman, the head of the Canadian women's soccer coach, head coach, she was dismissed, sent home from the Olympics after the drone was filming an opponent's practice. And then TSN in Canada reported that the Canadian women and men's teams have been doing this, quote, for years.
Yikes.
But keep this in mind. You don't think about it because, it's the World Cup, right? Do you know who is the defending gold medalists in the Olympics?
Nope.
It's actually Canada.
No way. Really?
Yes. Canada are the defending gold
medalists.
medalists.
All they cared about when it came to the team sport stuff was hockey.
Soccer's a lot like hockey.
That's true. But but look, America's hat cares about one sport,
right?
And that's hockey.
But the Canadian women are the defending gold medalists, and they were caught using drones. And this is apparently something that's been going on for years. Absolutely remarkable. I mean, the opening ceremonies are going on as we speak. And already Canada had to boot their coach for flying drones.
That's amazing.
That's absolutely
amazing. Like I
bonkers.
said, that's some Bill Belichick-ish right there. By the way, status update on said grasshopper.
He's still here.
He's here, but now he's on the Pat Bolin cover,
the tribute magazine.
He's paying respects to Pat.
Yeah.
He's paying his respects to Mr. B. He's on the Hall of Fame cover that we did with Pat. This is nuts. Anilo, you needed to have been here to document this damn grasshopper.
We had a Denver radio history
on the microphone and we potted him up.
We potted him up
just in case he had anything to say.
He didn't, but we tried it.
So for the first time in history, a Denver media outlet, sports or otherwise, has placed a grasshopper on the air live, just to see if he had anything to say.
Yep. Get that on some other radio show.
I'll tell you what.
Luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Anywhere else? We haven't named him yet. We did encourage people to hit us up on Twitter.
Hit us up and give him a name, or her. We don't know.
I'm sorry. What? Jim. We could go. We could do Jiminy, as in Jiminy Cricket.
Jimmy and Joe's, right?
We could just go Hopper. That was the bad guy in A Bug's Life. If we're talking Pixar. I was talking about Doug from Up a minute ago.
And also Hopper would be gender neutral because I'm not going to check see if that's
I don't want to. I don't even know if you can.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to look, really.
I don't even understand what that is.
Maybe Hopper will work.
Anilo just scared him. He was walking just fine across the table. Now he's back. He's backpedaling.
He backed up.
He's backpedaling. Anilo scared him.
All right.
Or her.
Yeah.
Scared Hopper.
Hi, scared Hopper.
You scared Hopper.
All right, take it easy. Okay, he's trying to make peace with Hopper.
Folks, here's what I want you to make sure that you do before we get ready to sign off here. Just so you're aware, practice is over.
Yep.
The players were having some fun with the fans, doing some autographs, things like that. Practice is over. The podium is active right now. We can see our brothers and sisters in the sports media over in the scrum.
Yep.
So obviously Cody will have all of that for you relatively quickly posted up on milehighsports.com as well as across all of our social channels. So make sure you're following us because Cody is over there in the scrum as we speak. But we will be back with you from camp at 11 a.m. on Monday, live again from right here from our broadcast tent. And we will keep you up to date on the status of Hopper. As has been handed to me by Monsieur Anilo Pirro, it is official. $6.8 million for Russell Westbrook and your Denver Nuggets. It is official that he is on that deal. $6.8 million, 1-year contract.
So the Nuggets restructure, give him a new contract. He was on a 1-year, $4 million player option that he accepted from the Clippers. He was then dealt to the Jazz for Chris Dunn. He gets released
and
then gets an extra $2.8 million for his troubles. This is an interesting move, Nate, because
yeah, it is.
There is a lot to like. The Nuggets do need a secondary ball handler behind Jamal Murray. My question is Russell Westbrook going to be okay not starting and backing up not Jamal Murray, Christian Brown?
Yeah, but here's what I will throw out there. I'm going to throw two things out there. First and foremost, no matter what I think of Russell Westbrook.
Oh, and has anyone checked with Rocky? Because
we got to
there's
figure
a
all
history
that
there
out.
between Russ and Rocky.
Here's what I will tell you. First and foremost about Russell Westbrook, I will remove my own personal opinions about Russ for just a moment. If Joker wants him, that's all I needed to know.
Right.
Period. End of story. I don't care what any other NBA analyst wants to talk about, any other Nuggets analyst, I don't care whether they're on this station or on another one. The only thing that matters to me is that Joker wanted him. And if Joker wanted him, give the damn man what he wants.
Yeah.
All right.
Works
the greatest player on the planet right now. Give him what he wants. So that's my first statement before I say anything else. Now I'll put a slight analyst hat on. I am not convinced, Shawn, that Michael Malone might not realize that based on what has happened over the last 2 seasons, that there isn't some energy that Christian Brown brings off the bench and that Russell Westbrook is actually your starter for that exact reason. There is a reason that back in the mid-2000s that Greg Popovich moved Manu Ginobili to the bench.
Right.
And
despite
it wasn't
being clearly one of their best 5 players.
Without question, he deserved to start.
Absolutely.
Popovich did it because he recognized how he could ride the waves, especially of the first quarter and potentially early second quarter, of being able to put Manu in off the bench instead of having him as a starter. And so if you're going to play that type of a game, it might be that Christian isn't the starter.
Well, and that's an interesting
and I don't think
too.
that's and by the way, that's not a knock on Christian Brown and by any stretch.
No,
it's because I believe he brings a little bit of a spark plug coming off the bench, so let him come off the bench.
And I actually agree with you. I actually think that Brown is better coming off the bench. And in the end, you can go with another Popovich and Chuck Daly. It doesn't really matter who started, who's on the court at the end of the game.
The only thing that matters in how many games you start is if that happens to be a bonus in your contract.
Yeah, otherwise, don't worry about it. Who's on at the end? The interesting part about Westbrook's game, he's still an energizer bunny. He's still one of the few guys on the Nuggets. He's one of only a handful of guys that can put downhill pressure on a defense. That's valuable. But the shot has started to go away. As the legs start to give, 35 years old, the shot started to go away. But what has quietly happened is as on an on-ball defender over the last couple of years, Westbrook has gone from being abysmal to actually a little better than average. Now, he's not locked down. He's not going to turn into KCP defensively. But at the same time, he is not bad. So perhaps let me even consider it this way. Westbrook is the all-time leader in triple-doubles, 199, the most in the history of the NBA. Joker is he's fourth. He'll be third, passing Magic freaking Johnson at some point this season. What if what actually happens, because we've watched over the last couple of years of Jamal Murray's assist numbers continue to go up, right? But Jamal Murray can shoot. What if now what we're seeing is Russell Westbrook is really your point guard, and Jamal Murray, who's more of a scorer mentality, takes over as essentially your 2, even though it's positionless. But I could see that working because perhaps Westbrook is distributing to Jokic and Murray, and then when he is open or is available, has a chance, slashes, drives and kicks, does the things he's good at. I agree with you. I think Michael Malone does not want to start Christian Brown, and I think getting Russell Westbrook, who's still at 35, can play big minutes. He still has that energy. I think that will work, and I think it may work itself out. But if you were to draw it out in the whole 1 through 5, which I know no longer really exists, I can see a scenario in which Westbrook is your starting point guard and Jamal is your starting 2 guard, and that may be the way the Nuggets go. And it may maximize the abilities of both.
And most importantly, it's what Joker wants.
At this point.
Say it with me, folks. It's what Joker wants.
If he's comfortable with it, make it happen.
Okay. Look, I told you, go on to milehighsports.com. You can read the column that I wrote comparing Nikola Jokic to Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Remember one of the things that happened with the Packers, and the reason why I can make that comparison to Aaron Rodgers is because Rodgers talked about what he wanted. Rodgers talked about wanting a receiver or talking about this or talking about that. And sometimes the organization listened to it. Sometimes they did.
A lot of the times they did over the years.
And sometimes they didn't. And you only have a certain window when you have a generational talent.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers is a generational talent. Nikola Jokic is a generational talent.
Jokic isn't going to play till he's 40.
No, he's not.
It's not. You
and I have talked about that.
I think he's going to finish this contract.
And by the way, I also talked about that in the column that I wrote. Hey, don't scare him. He's right there. Don't scare him away.
So
Danilo's coming back into the tent. He's going to scare. What did we say? Jimmy?
Or High. Yeah.
By the way, the interaction, that is happening right now on our Twitter about this grasshopper is cracking me up.
Grasshopper is a legend.
a good friend of mine
Boom.
who actually used to work for me in San Antonio is even commenting on the grasshopper right now. So it's hilarious. This guy is becoming a celeb. I really feel like we need to offer him up a contract, like a 1-day contract.
Yeah.
So what's vital to me is that you take advantage of the years that you have with Nikola Jokic. And I know people want to say that he is in his prime, and I'm not going to disagree with what he's been able to do. However, I do believe that if you're going to call a certain segment of years of a prime, there is a big chunk that is behind us.
How about this?
Take advantage of it while you can, because look, Tim Duncan played in the league for 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is not Nikola Jokic.
Nope.
I'm convinced of it.
How about this? Russell Westbrook becomes the first teammate that Nikola Jokic has ever had at the NBA level that has ever made an all-star team.
Yeah.
Ever. He's never had a teammate that's ever made an all-star game.
Good point.
Ever. To get you an idea of how much Jokic has dragged this team across the finish line, that has to show you. And if you can get a guy like Westbrook, who, by the way, given all the Hall of Famers he's played with, has never won that ring.
Yep.
I have no doubt that Russell Wilson, pardon me, from sitting on the Broncos sideline and having flashbacks. Russell Westbrook is going to give maximum effort to get that ring because he knows his time is short too.
Yes.
And so if that pairing works because you have these two guys that are hungry for that, then I'm all for it. And if nothing else, you have to admit it's going to be entertaining.
It will be entertaining. It will absolutely be entertaining. But, you know, like I said, I've never really been a Russell Westbrook guy.
I haven't either.
I haven't.
But I respect the game. I respect the hustle.
Absolutely respect the hustle and the talent.
The Nuggets an edge and an irritant that they very rarely have had.
But most importantly, I go back to, I'm sorry to be a broken record, folks. It's what Joker wants, and you were able to do it. They, you know, Calvin Booth and Michael Malone and they figure and Josh Kroenke, they figured out how to do it. Does it guarantee you the Western Conference? Hell no. Hell no, it doesn't.
Close.
But it is actually a decent building block to go toward that goal.
Yeah, it's a lot to like for sure.
So,
Nate.
So anyway, 6.8 million. If you missed it, if you're just tuning in, 6.8 million. It's official. Westbrook is a Nugget.
Is a Denver Nugget. That'll be fun in short order as well. The training camp for the day done. They will be back at it for practice tomorrow for fans, presumably all filled up as well. For fans coming out this weekend, Nate, after watching today's practice, what should they be looking for tomorrow? If you're a fan and you're coming out first, look for some sunscreen.
Well, yeah,
step one.
Yeah, first
do that.
First and foremost, make sure you've got some sunscreen on. It's going to be warm. It always is out here.
If you have one of these bald noggins like me, please bring a hat.
Yeah, you understand that. Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Make sure that even if you've just got it on your phone when you come out, make sure that you've got the roster downloaded. And what I would tell you to do, especially if you're going to come out to camp a couple of times, give yourself an opportunity to focus in on the new names, in particular the rookies, not named Bo Nix. I know it's going to be hard to not pay attention to what Bo's doing. Right. And as a fan, I hope that you do that. But I want you to do things like look at Franklin.
Yep.
Right. I mean, just look at some of the other. Look at some of the other.
I want to see Chris Abrams drain. We talked about cornerbacks earlier.
Yes. I think that
Jonah Ellis.
Look at some of the newer names. Look at a Levi Wallace, who we were talking about before, to line up opposite Pat Surtain. Give yourself an opportunity as a fan to get sort of introduced to some of these new guys, and then how they fold into the vets. That's what I would tell you to be looking for when you're out here tomorrow, more than anything else, is to take advantage of that. I know it's going to be hard for you as a fan to not take your eyes off of 10, and rightfully so. You should be paying attention to what 10 is doing. But make sure that you don't get tunnel vision and look at some of these other guys, because I think Troy Franklin is a great name to keep an eye on.
I do too. I actually think Franklin's one of the players that's going to make a big difference.
Another damn
on this
duck.
roster.
There's 4 ducks on this roster, for crying out loud.
Oh my goodness.
Pisses me off.
Well, we'll find out more about it tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be back at it on Monday. Thank you for
now
joining
he's trying
us.
to wear he's
trying to wear Anilo's glasses.
Jimmy is trying to wear Anilo's sunglasses now.
All right.
Well, we got to get out of here.
We are going to head out of here. You have a safe, wonderful weekend. Thanks for Cody Roark for joining us. Of course, Nate Lundy sitting in.
Yep. If you're going to Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown Band tomorrow night at the stadium, look for me. Wave, say hi. I'll be there. I will be there.
Sure.
And chances are 7 or 8 deep. So just make sure you wave and that you remind me of your name because I might forget.
Yeah, you mentioned Alfred Williams before. He ain't lying. He ain't lying about that. I've seen Nate at the country shows. You have a safe and wonderful weekend because we want to see you back here on Monday. Thanks for joining us. For Danny Bailey making everything work. For Nate Lundy. For Jimmy the Grasshopper breaking through like first time ever in Colorado media. That's what you get right here. We are live, local, independent, your best source for Colorado sports. This is Mile High Sports.